And greetings to my 5 friends around the world who especially have an interest in the economy of the United States of America and the economy of the whole world. And our eyes are focused on the plans of President Obama to attempt to help the banks with their so-called toxic assets. This story was filed March the 20th, 2009, an article by Edmund Andrews, Eric Dash, and Graham Bowley, writing for the New York Times. The Treasury Department, it says in part, is expected to unveil early next week its long-delayed plan to buy as much as $1 trillion in troubled mortgages from financial institutions. The plan is likely to offer generous subsidies in the form of low-interest loans to Obama's friends, to coax investors, his friends, to form partnerships, which they've already formed, with the government so that they can buy these so-called toxic assets, which are really, mortgages on perfectly good houses, which will go up in value in the future, and mortgages and loans to businesses which will be paid in the future. These are not really toxic assets at all. They are assets which, on the books, have little or no value because of current accounting methods. Supposedly to help protect taxpayers who would pay for the bulk of the purchases, the plan calls for auctioning assets to Obama's cronies. The uproar over the American International Group's AIG bonuses is not stopped, but that's all bogus. It's all manufactured. Obama's plan to pay off his cronies will not include the imposition of restrictions on their pay. Quote, the article says, the plan is not expected to impose restrictions on the executive pay of private investors and fund managers, Obama's cronies, who participate in this government-funded, taxpayer-funded theft of the bank's assets. These mortgages are not toxic. These are sound assets. The three-pronged approach, it says in this article, is perhaps the most central component of President Obama's plan to supposedly rescue, I added the word supposedly, the nation's banking system from the money-losing assets weighing down bank balance sheets, crippling their ability to make new loans, and deepening the recession. We all know how the banks came to hold those so-called toxic mortgages on their books. We all know how that happened and who is primarily responsible. Industry analysts estimate that the nation's banks are holding at least $2 trillion in, quote, troubled assets, mostly residential and commercial mortgages. What this is a looting, a continued looting of the banking industry in the United States, a transfer of power, a power grab. The plan to be announced next week involves 3 separate approaches. In one, the FDIC will set up special purpose investment partnerships and lend about 95% of the money that these partnerships will need to buy up troubled assets. Where's the money coming from? U.S. taxpayers. Who's the money being lent to? Obama's cronies and insiders who have been expecting this for weeks, perhaps months.